Okay, good morning, everyone, and to here in the US, and good evening to our colleagues in India. Thank you very much for joining us today for this joint webinar series between Binghamton University and VIT. We are very delighted today to have Dr. Solomon Bobby Selvaraj, who will talk about laser additive manufacturing for patient-specific implants. Dr. Selvaraj received his Ph.D. From the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Auckland University of Technology in New Zealand in 2016. He earned his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering at the University of Madras in 1998 and his master's degree in manufacturing engineering and management from VIT in 2006. He has established his 3D printing lab at VIT, which is the largest lab among the Indian institutions, in 2017. After returning back from New Zealand. In June 2020, he received approval from Ford USA and Deakin University Consortium to establish a center of excellence in 3D printing for automotive applications at VIT. His current research focuses on identifying and optimizing the sand-based composite material system to print mold directly without pattern for metal-causing applications. The others areas of interest to him is optimizing the process parameters, validating the biodegradable magnesium alloy-based implants, printing, validating, and comparing various materials for patient-specific implants. He's currently investigating the microstructural characterization and stable processing control for 2D single metal track test studies for alloy Aconel 718. Another research is a study on addressing the challenges of printing PEEK material for aerospace application. He has published more than 20 refereed journal papers and conference papers. His teaching interests include manufacturing technologies, additive manufacturing, and rapid manufacturing technologies. He's a life member in the Indian Society for Technical Education, life member in the International Laser Association, life member in the Society for Plant Layout and Material Handling, and life member in Additive Manufacturing Society of India. So, Dr. Solomon, thank you very much for joining us. We are delighted to have you, and I will turn over the floor to you for your presentation.
Thank you, Professor Mohammed, for a warm welcome and introduction. And today we are going to see the laser additive manufacturing, how it influences the patient-specific implants. So my outline of the lecture is starting with the introduction, going forward to AM types, laser additive manufacturing, laser additive manufacturing mechanisms, the structural performance, lattice structures for the implants, and ending with the case study. Happy to share this screen. As I told by Professor Mohammed, among the Indian institutions, we have developed the biggest 3D printing lab with 35 printers, 32 FDM, 1 SLS, 1 SLA, and 1 SLM printer. All we know the history of the 3D printing, though we talk more in these days, these years, it has been around for more than 35 years. Professor Chuck Hull invented the first 3D printing process called stereolithography in 1983 when he was a scholar in MIT. In his patent, he mentioned a method and apparatus for making solid objects by successfully printing thin layers of the ultraviolet curable material, one on top of the other. This patent only focused on the printing with light curable liquid. But after Hull founded a company called a 3D System, which is the leading 3D company in USA now, he soon realized his techniques was not limited to only liquids, expanding the definition to any material capable of solidification or capable of altering its physical state. With this, he built the foundation for what we know today as additive manufacturing or 3D printing technology. There are a lot of technologies from the various research institutions and the industries, and stating the 3D printing and additive manufacturing. So the ASTM, under the ASTM, there was a committee of 42, all we know that. So they characterized or categorized all the technologies into 7. The first one is wet photo polymerization. The liquid plastic or the polymer, if it is cured with a laser, it's named as a stereolithography. And the same liquid plastic or the resin cured with the projector, it is named as digital light processing. And the same liquid plastic is cured with LED and oxygen and is named as a continuous digital light processing. And the second classification, it's called material extrusion, where the solid polymer, whether infused with composites or infused with metal powders or ceramics and so on, is extruded through a nozzle system, is called FDM, that is a fused deposition modeling or fused filament fabrication. Now the third classification is called material jetting, where the material is jetted, and if it is polymer cured with the UV light, it's named as material jetting, and metal is jetted and cured with the heat source is named nanoparticle jetting. And if it is the wax material is jetted and milled, it's named as a drop on demand. And the next one is the binder jetting, where the metal or a gypsum or sand based substrates joined with the bonding agent, that is a liquid bonding agent, is named as a binder jetting. And among all the 7 technologies or classifications, so the binder jetting is known as for 3D printing. And the next technology or classification is called as a powder bed fusion technology, where the plastic or the polymer powders or metal powders, when cured or fused with energy source, the names are follows like this. If the polymer powder is fused with agent and cured with the energy source, is called as a multi-jet fusion. And the plastic powders again is fused with the laser source, as called as selective laser sintering. And the metal powders is fused with a laser that's in the molten state. It's called as direct metal laser sintering or selective laser melting. And the energy source is different from the laser to the electron beam. Then the technology is named as electron beam melting. And the direct energy deposition is another classification, where the metal powder and the energy source will be sent in a nozzle. And previous powder bed fusion, the powder substrates will be deposited on the build chamber, and the laser will scan them. Whereas here, the direct energy deposition, the powder as well as the energy source, whether it's a laser or electron beam, will be meeting at particular distance above the part or just below the nozzle tip, and where the metal powder will get melted because of the energy source and will be deposited. And finally, the last classification, the 7th classification, is called sheet lamination, where the paper or a composite coated papers will be laminated one over the other, and the cutting tool will cut them to the required shape and size. The milestones, what was expected at the time of introduced the additive manufacturing for the rapid prototyping application, and where we are now. Though it was estimated to have the complete product in 2030 to 2050, but we all know that we have achieved much ahead of that. Now itself, we are able to see the mass productions are happening in all over the world. It's evaluated from prototyping to the end-use product and in the mass production scenario. So the laser additive manufacturing is further classified when the energy source is laser, or laser is used as an energy source to build the parts layer by layer. That additive manufacturing is called as a laser additive manufacturing. The laser-based additive manufacturing process generally have a complex non-equilibrium physical and chemical metallurgical nature, which is material and process dependent. Three most versatile laser-based additive manufacturing processes are laser sintering, laser melting, and laser metal deposition. So laser additive manufacturing process shares the same material additive manufacturing philosophy. However, each LAM process has its specific characteristics in terms of usable materials, processing procedures, and applicable situations. The capability of obtaining high-performance metallic components with controllable microstructural and mechanical properties also shows a distinct difference for the various additive manufacturing processes. Different types of lasers are used, including CO2 laser, ND-arc, disc laser, fiber lasers, and etc. There is a mechanism behind in the process, laser additive manufacturing process, that comes from the interaction of the laser and the material. The two mechanisms shown here are partial melting of powder mechanism and complete melting of powder mechanism. The partial melting powder mechanism is employed or is the reason for the laser sintering or a multi-component metals and alloy powders. And the laser melting and laser metal deposition, the two technologies uses the complete melting of powder mechanism using pure metal powders or alloy powders. In laser metal deposition, as we have seen in previous slides, coaxial powder feeding with the synchronous laser scanning is the reason for the laser material interaction of this mechanism. So as we know, this laser sintering, the choice of the laser has significant influence on the consolidation of powders. The reasons behind the laser absorptivity of materials greatly depends on the laser wavelength. Lesser the wavelength and more the absorptivity. The operative metallurgical mechanism for a powder densification is determined by the input laser energy density. The duration of the laser beam or any powder particle depends on the beam size, the laser beam size and scan speed, and typically it varies between 0.5 and 25 milliseconds. This is extremely short thermal cycle. The processing mechanism is liquid phase sintering involving a partial melting of the powder, which is called as a semi-solid consolidation mechanism. The powder characteristics and laser processing conditions should be carefully determined in order to realize a favorable metallurgical mechanism for powder consolidation of multi-component metal powder and pre-alloyed powders. It is generally composed of high melting point metallic component for a multi-component powder mixture, having a low melting point metallic component taken as the binder, and a small amount of additives such as flexing agent and deoxidizer is the composition for multi-component powder mixture, which influences the microstructural properties. And the low melting point metallic components will be melted and bonds the high melting point metallic components. The operative temperature is carefully determined between these two different melting temperatures by adjusting laser processing parameters. It exhibits a Muzzy zone for a pre-alloyed powders. Definitely there is a difference in the pre-alloyed powders and the multi-component powders and the pure powders when we are using it in under the laser. There is a solidus and liquidus temperatures you could identify here, within which liquid and solid phases coexist during the melting and solidification process. As laser processing parameters are optimized, The preferable laser sintering temperature is in the Muzzy zone to produce a semi-solid system that is super solid as liquid phase sintering acts as the feasible metallurgical mechanism. And then move on to laser melting from a laser sintering, where the parts could be produced with a 99.9 density, yeah, direct way without post infiltration or sintering, the way we go for our laser sintering. The mechanism of metallic powder is based on a complete melting and solidification. The full melting is supported by the continuously improved laser processing conditions, such as laser power, smaller focused spot size, smaller layer thickness, leading to significantly improved microstructural and mechanical properties. The two microstructure, which is in the left-hand side, shows the laser melting, and the right-hand side picture shows the from laser sintering. Laser melting could process non-ferrous pure metals as well, such as titanium, aluminum, and so on. The density of pure metal is highly controllable and can be improved significantly up to 99.5%. However, laser melting requires a high energy level, which is normally realized by applying a good beam quality, high laser power, thin powder layer thickness, which increases long building time. Consequently, laser melting at significant risk for the instability of the molten pool due to the full melting mechanism used. A large degree of shrinkage tends to occur during liquid solid transformation, accumulating considerable stresses in the parts. The residual stresses arising during cooling are a key factor for distortion and even delamination of the final products. Sorry. Furthermore, the melt instabilities may result in balling effect of the liquid melt pool and attended interior porosity. Therefore, the proper control or proper care should be taken in the selection of both the laser processing and the powder deposition parameters to heal a moderate temperature field to avoid the overheating of the laser melting system. To move on to the third laser additive manufacturing is called a laser metal deposition or direct metal deposition or direct energy deposition. It follows the principles of the general additive manufacturing. The manner of the powder supply changes from pre-spreading in the laser sintering and laser melting process to coaxial feeding mechanism in the laser metal deposition. The laser metal deposition powder delivers system consists of a specially designed powder feeder that delivers powder into a gas delivery system via the nozzles. The high energy laser beam is delivered along the z-axis in the center of the nozzle array and focused by lens in close proximity to the workpiece. So moving the lens and powder nozzle in the Z direction controls the height of the focus of both laser and powder. And the workpiece, the part is moved in XY direction by a computer controlled drive system under the beam powder interaction zone to form the desired cross-sectional geometry. Here is the important laser parameters or the process parameters. One should be careful in selecting the process parameters in order to print the parts successfully. It has been classified as a laser-related parameters, scan-related parameters, powder-related parameters, and temperature-related parameters. Though it has a further classifications, the researchers focuses mainly on the laser power, spot size, scan speed, and the layer thickness, and so on. The volume energy or volumetric energy density is the important factor to be considered for any material to be printed under laser power. Few of the researchers, they're calculating the volume energy or volumetric density, considering the two parameters, say laser power and scan speed. And some set of, or another set of researcher They're considering to calculate the volumetric energy density from a laser power, scan speed, and hatching space or a laser diameter. And most of the researchers, their focus is considering laser power, scan speed, hatch spacing, and layer thickness. And build rate will be calculated using scan speed, hatching spacing, and layer thickness. So materials for laser additive manufacturing and their processing mechanism, it varies based on the purity or alloying elements. The pure metal powders compared with the alloying elements are not welcomed by, are not the focus of the laser additive manufacturing technology because of the two reasons. One is it's a relatively weak nature of pure metals, limited mechanical properties, and poor anti-oxidization or anti-corrosion capabilities make them less attractive as a candidate material for additive manufacturing. And the second reason is that unsuccessful early attempts to process pure metals through the partial melting mechanism by laser sintering have lost long period without any significant progress before a successful implementation of a laser melting. And where the pre-alloyed metal powders comes into play, the majority of the research efforts are being focused on titanium-based, nickel-based, and iron-based, among which some materials and process companies have entered a mature phase of the practical applications. The alloy-based alloys is the next research focus to face the large challenges in laser processing of non-ferrous alloys with high reflective to laser energy. The laser resources with high energy densities are generally required to yield a favorable bonding mechanism. Once the processing parameters are optimized to obtain a fully dense parts, attention is focused on a residual stress and microstructures. The control of as-built microstructure is strongly influenced by the large undercooling degree during rapid solidification of the laser-generated molten pool. When you take a titanium-based alloys, there's a Ti64 or titanium 6 aluminum 4 vanadium is a candidate material for aeronautical applications and medical fields because of their unique chemical and mechanical features and well-documented biocompatibility. The formation of a unique HCP magnetostatic microstructure, the tensile strength of the part is higher than that of hot work parts, whereas the ductility is lower in this case. To modify this ductility nature, the heat treatment helps the change of the metastable martensite into a biphasic alpha beta matrix, resulting in increase in ductility and reduction in strength. The stabilization of microstructures contributes to the improvement of the ductility. The laser additive manufacturing, what it influences the biomedical implants manufacturing. The design freedom offered by additive manufacturing may be used to enhance the strength to weight ratio of structural components by transforming solid geometry into a cellular structure or space filling all sections of the model with the cellular structure. The cellular structures within the model may be useful in distributing the loads evenly compared to a hollow model by conforming to the geometric boundaries of the object. Let us see the types of cellular structures. One is called as stochastic and periodic structures. These are the two structures. And stochastic cellular structures are characterized by random orientations of structural elements, which you could see in the right-hand side, the top picture. And it is available in abundance in the nature, such as observed in bones, sponges, beaks of the birds, and horns of the animals. Such cellular structures are often surrounded by a thick plate structures such as cortex bone, and therefore are referred as a sandwich kind of structures. And the bottom picture shown the additively manufactured cellular structures. Periodic structures consists of a plurality of a single unit cell arranged in a specific pattern, such as honeycomb structures and the engineered lattice structures. Yeah, lattice structures from a structural engineering context is an array of struts that may be pin joined or rigidly bonded at their intersection and are being shown to have up to 300% greater strength compared to the Hopeoretic cellular structure under similar circumstances. The generation of periodic lattice structure is computationally efficient as it involves the repetition of predefined unit cell configurations. Furthermore, from the cellular structures, the local and global properties of lattice structures can be tailored by using applicable unit cells from a large unit cell library. This enables greater user control over lattice configurations and density, making periodic lattice structures ideal for functionally graded materials. Additionally, the structural optimization of periodic lattice structures is computationally efficient compared to aperiodic structures or stochastic structures. So the structural performance is important before we select the lattice structures. The failure of lattice structure is a complex phenomenon that can be attributed to several associated failure modes and loading conditions, including yield and buckling failure modes. Structurally, lattice structures can be broadly classified into bending dominant and stretch dominant structures. Here we can see the stretch dominant structures. The lattice structures undergoes a plastic consolidation initially, after which the load starts to increase rapidly. At peak load here, the struts start to yield plastically and failure occurs either by buckling or a fracture, resulting in a steep drop in load carrying ability. This type of structure is desirable for a high load carrying application. The next one is bonding dominant structures. The collapse of the structure occurs at nearly constant stress, making bending dominant structures more suitable for energy absorbing applications and for the emulation of a trabecular bone. Lattice densification occurs after the structure is fully crushed and the structure behaves as a solid material. So there is a design and consideration to manufacture the lattice structures. The generating lattice structures for a regular geometries, including orthogonal or prismatic and so on, is relatively easier due to the object's predictable geometry. However, irregular freeform geometries such as orthopedic implants are challenging to tessellate with the periodic lattice, typically requiring the designer to trade off structural integrity with associated lattice geometry conformity. Research shows that support-free manufacture of lattice structure is feasible with identification, accommodation of manufacturing constraints of the applied selective laser melting technology. So the key limitations involved are associated with the traditional way of orthopedic implants are the mass manufacture of the self-orthopedic implants are made in specific size, shape groups, and are not designed according to individual patient's anatomy and biomechanics. Therefore, a patient's bone is usually modified to fit the implant, which is contradictory to what is desirable. The load-bearing orthopedic implants have a solid construction and are generally over-stiff compared to the surrounding bones. This stiffness mismatch results in stress shielding, which causes resorption of the bone and subsequent failure. The standard implant design requires extensive implantation site preparation, resulting in excessive removal of healthy soft tissues and bones in some cases. This results in extended hospitalization, immobility, and rehabilitation for a patient. To address these issues, the patient-specific implant has been practiced. The patient-specific implants, as opposed to the traditional orthopedic implants, the data could be derived directly from a CT and MRI scans. The design process typically involves use of image processing software to segment a patient's anatomy, to identify defect, disease, or deformity, to prepare a virtual surgical plan to design an implant. The implants are then manufactured by using additive manufacturing methods, a traditional manufacturing method, or sometimes combination of both. The patient-specific implants provide treatment options to patients who do not qualify for a treatment with standard devices or are at risk of amputation and ensuing severe disability. Use of patient-specific implants has increased in recent years due to access to high-fidelity medical imaging modalities, image processing, and design software tools, and of course, additive manufacturing. However, there exist multiple challenges that hinder uptake of patient-specific implants. One such major challenge is the lead time, which varies. Some researchers study it varies between 4 to 8 weeks, depending on a case complexities, number of design iterations, and manufacturing processes. The patient-specific implants are mostly designed using conventional CAD tools or mesh manipulation tools. As a result, the design process is slow and prone to user-dependent variations. So sluggish uptake of patient-specific implant is also due to lack of clinical data as a result of low volumes and uniqueness of each one of compassionate use cases. There is a technology or methodology adopted by a group of research from research institution from Melbourne, Australia. They introduced a JIT concept, just-in-time concept, to increase, to rapidly, automatically generate the lattice structure, structurally and anatomically reconstruct bone defects, and overcoming traditional manufacturing challenges. And this methodology is used for all the cases of a diseased or damaged bone to replace bones and joints. And normally implant surgery involves removing the damaged tissues to replace with the artificial implant for a structural stabilization. The damage is usually from various reasons. And to ensure the longer survival rates, implants design should adopt the pathology, geometry, and structure of the surrounding tissues. That will gives the success rate of the implants for a patient. The bone typically undergoes complex loading consisting of a tensile compressive bending as well as a shear and torsional forces, and the implant is required to mimic this behavior. Additionally, the stiffness of the implant must be comparable to the bone's stiffness in order to avoid physical damage and stress shielding to avoid bone resorption and implant failures. On the other hand, the yield strength of the implant material should exceed that of the local bone so that the implant material can transfer loads and ground reactions to surrounding tissues without permanent deformation. Furthermore, the implant should possess superior fatigue resistance to sustained, intermittent, and high cyclic loading. The lattice structures offer this ability to tailor mechanical properties and behavior, which lend themselves preferably to orthopedic implant design. Lattice structures have traditionally been used in orthopedic implant as porous surface coatings, which was covered by Dr. Geeta, on solid implants to enhance secondary fixation through bone on growth and ingrowth. In addition to their superior biological properties, lattice structures also possesses unique structural properties, making them a superior alternative to solid implants. For example, lattice structures have high strength to weight compared to solid structure, and the design variables can be tailored to enhance the biological response as well as static and dynamic mechanical behavior. The JIT algorithms developed by RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia, rapidly designs patient-specific orthopedic implants comprising smart lattice structures that are conformal to patient's anatomy and iteratively optimizes the patient-specific biomechanical loads. The algorithm maps the geometry-specific process parameters, additive manufacturing technology to ensure the manufacture of error-free and high-fidelity lattice structures. The advantage of using JIT algorithms: so lattice implants are designed based on the patient-specific image data and conforms to the patient's bone geometry. Automated algorithm generated the lattice structures rapidly to fill bone defects while ensuring complete manufacturability without the need of internal support structures. The internal support structure is the key critical aspect in the powder bed fusion technology. So the lattice configuration consists of functionally varying pore size and shapes to simultaneously enhance bone ingrowth and strength to weight ratio. The lattice structures are topologically optimized to withstand patient-specific loading conditions. The lattice configurations are tailored to match stiffness of the surrounding bone while exceeding the static and dynamic strength requirements. So this pictures gives an idea. The outcome of the implementation are following the JIT methodology, remove the tumor affected bone, and the JIT methodology automatically and rapidly design the patient specific lattice implants, and that is a time consuming or the time saving methodology, which increases the productivity or reduces the production time. The case study what we have taken here to support the patient specific lattice modular prosthesis for the tumor affected patient by replacing the total talus in her leg. The tumor-induced bone defects reconstructed with additive manufacturing technology accurately and anatomically by tailored contour, which can induce bone ingrowth through the porously proofing treatment, reduce long-term mechanical complications, and promote better function of limbs. Yeah, press-fit modular prosthesis was designed according to the mirror image taken from a CT scan of the contralateral talus with complete filling of the sinus tarsi and subtalar joint space. So here you can see the plan of upper and bottom modular fixation. The upper modular component of the modular prosthesis was made up of ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, and the lower component was made up of titanium alloy. So this picture can give you a complete idea of the process sequence started from models of the processes, and adjacent bones were printed that you can see in the A and B pictures, tested and verified before go for a final production. And C, D, E, F are the final printed press fit modular processes. And E and F pictures giving the idea of the final product manufactured by a titanium alloys with the lattice structure. And picture C, that is the top portion of the modular prosthesis, was made up of ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. And finally, the assemble, the component or the implant is fixed with the calcaneus and the navicular bone. And this implant was successfully implanted in the patient's leg. And after the 6 months, the X-ray or radiograph was taken to see the outcome of this implants. And the patient feels comfortable in living with this implants by folding or stretching her leg. Another case study, what we have done at VIT, similar to the previous case study, the total Talus replacement. The previous case study was because of the tumor, and this case study is because of the trauma. So yeah, 24 years old boy met with an accident, road accident, and lost his talus bone. And a group of doctors from our local community and VIT discussed to give a life to that patient. And then we extracted this data from the CT scan image, and the first prototype was developed with the PLA material. And there are iterations we went, and finally this design was identified and finalized. In this first prototype, you could see the two bolts, and these two bolts replaced here in the bottom section. And initially we thought to have a metal string to attach with the neighboring bolts instead of screwing. And finally, and the doctors changed their mindset to avoid this string into the screwing mechanism. The previous case study, you would have seen the 3 screws, and here we have made as a 2 screws. And the materials, again, we use the same titanium alloy, the medical grade titanium alloy, to build the bottom modular processes, and the top one again with the ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. And we have done this operation, it was done this year, and the research is still going on, and studying the comfortability and the working ability of the patient. And that's all from my end. Thanks for your patient listening. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Solomon, for the nice presentation. It's definitely great to see all the information about your lab and all the cutting edge research that you and your colleagues are working on. So thank you very much for sharing this with our colleagues here.
Thank you, Professor Mohammed.
At this point, we'll open it up to questions. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. If you're having audio problems, you can also feel free to type it in the chat. Either way is fine.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yes, sir, please.
Thanks, Professor, for the wonderful talk. I wanted to know the biocompatibility of the material compared to some of the other traditional materials that have been used as prosthetics. I think, for example, hip replacement, traditionally it was maybe steel with titanium coating. but if we were to use synthetic materials like high density polyethylene, which can be manufactured using laser printing or 3D printing, is there an issue of compatibility with the body itself? Does the body tend to reject it after a period of time, or how much, or how long period are they compatible? Can the implant actually stay in the body before it needs additional surgery? Can you please comment on that?
Yeah, it's a very good question from Professor Prabhu. Yeah, traditionally for a hip joint, the top part is been manufactured by a cobalt chrome.
Okay.
And the combination of the steel and a titanium, actually the steel is against it will corrode with the biofluids. It's not a good material to use to manufacture implants. There's so many research, so many studies showing that it corrodes quickly than the titanium. Why the people are still using it? Like developing countries like India and other countries, the cost is the factor. The implant cost is a factor. To reduce the cost of the implants, still the people are trying to use the steel having a combination of titanium. But to my knowledge and associating with the doctor's team here, titanium and cobalt chrome is the candidate materials for manufacturing bioimplants. And the lifespan or lifetime of the titanium implants and cobalt chrome is comparatively higher than the implants made up of steel. Am I answered your question, Professor Prabhu?
Yeah, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Again, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for the lecture. This is Sari Al-Zari. In fact, I have a question about the flexibility of the lattice structure. So is there a way to control the dimension of the structure to make it act more like a spring-like?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question. And the flexibility of the lattice structured implants is based on the ductility nature. So when we increase the ductility nature on the metal, and there's a possibility to have such a flexibility.
So, but knowing that there are specific compatible materials with the body, so this is a restriction factor. So is there a way, again, can I please rephrase my question, without changing the material, that we're gonna use the same material, but controlling the dimension of the structure itself?
Yeah, it's possible. So with the different materials, that's what all the metallurgists are working on, to identifying the material which is more flexible in nature without compromising the dimensional accuracies. But in titanium, it has some limitations. By increasing the ductility, we can attain certain flexibility in nature. Of course, there are other materials that have chances for having a high flexibility in nature with a perfect dimensional accuracy. I hope I would have answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sari, for your question. We have only one comment in the chat from Dr. Santos. He wants to thank you for your lecture.
Thank you. Welcome.
Any other questions? I know we have a few faculty in our department working on 3D printing, especially for some medical applications.
And I would like to say a few words of what the recent research we have taken here. Again, last week we got a call from a local hospital, and there is a patient having a tumor in his femur bone. So they wanted to prototype the femur bone, and they wanted to make the tensile to do. That's a medical device just to design the tensile to cut off the tumor without affecting the femur joint. If anyone is interested, you can join with us and to take it up to the next level of this research.
Oh, great. Thank you for sharing this, Dr. Solomon. We'll follow up with our faculty and see if anybody is interested. It seems like an exciting project.
Yes.
And very rewarding.
Hello, Professor Solomon.
Yes.
Dr. Jading, yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is Jed from SSIE. Thank you for your presentation. I got a quick question about the mechanical property of the titanium alloy. It seems like you combine the PE with the titanium alloy, and also, do you have any suggestions about the mechanical strength of the titanium printed products? So I think this should be a kind of maybe a range for a biomedical applications for those metal parts.
Yeah, thank you. And this is in general, there is no prescribed values being recorded, but the researchers were pointing out the strength of the titanium implants should be more than that of the strength of the bone. But still the research is going on to fix the database. Say titanium alloy, this type of alpha categorized alloy or beta categorized titanium alloy should be, if the values are within this limit, it is suitable for this type of bone. Or if the values are falls under this category, this is suitable for this type of replacement. The research is still going on, but as of now, there is no fixed database or recommended database for a different implants to be manufactured out of titanium alloy of alpha grade and beta grade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Hello, sir. I have a quick question, sir. Actually, I'm a research scholar from VIT.
Yeah.
Sir, my question is, I am doing a research in this functionally graded material.
Fine.
So, sir, you have mentioned about functionally graded material in your presentation also.
Yeah.
Sir, I would like to know which of the manufacturing method would be the most convenient one to manufacture a functionally graded aluminum metal matrix composite, sir.
Yeah, fine. Thank you for your question. So I could suggest the technologies. Since you are using aluminium, so aluminium, as I mentioned in my slide, the aluminium printing or aluminium material is the next platform the researchers to jump in or come on to research to print aluminium under laser. That's a laser additive manufacturing. If you are more focused on the stress, residual stress, the main factor disturbing, or you can say it's a disturbing factor, this disturbing factor in the laser additive manufacturing is the residual stress. If you're bothering for the residual stress, we can go for the binder jetting mechanism. So recently the X1 company come up with a binder jetting mechanism, printing the metal components, or Mark Forge again. They're using filament based materials to print the metal components, and it has a series of sintering process. But the residual stress or the influence of the residual stress on the printed component could be avoided if you select the binder jet or the FDM Mark Forged process. That would be my suggestions.
Okay, sir. I get you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So this is Archie Verma from VIT. So I wanted to talk about in general, that when we talk about 3D printing titanium, it usually produces a higher roughness than required by the body implant. So that might not be suitable for a body implant. So that requires a lot of post-processing of the implant, of the 3D printed implant. So I wanted to know if there's a way, if there's any way which we can inculcate during the 3D printing, so that the grinding and the smoothing of the implants is not required, will not be required after the 3D printing.
Yeah, it's a very good question. The hybrid additive manufacturing technology, you would have heard the word hybrid additive manufacturing technology, which employs the milling cutter. At the time of printing or during the printing itself, say after completed 2 or 3 layers, the milling cutter will get engaged and it will mill off the surfaces so that the final product will be having a surface quality as expected with a fine dimensional accuracy. That's a chance, yes.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yep.
Professor, I got one question, please.
Please.
First of all, thank you so much for this great lecture. I think somewhere in your presentation, you mentioned that for the implant to be patient-specific, you extract data from CT and MRI images. So what is the type of algorithm that you are using to extract such information, if you are doing that in your research group? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we are using the free softwares, which is available for free of cost.
Mm-hmm.
We extract the CT and MRI data using that softwares and getting the 2D data or converting 2D data into 3D data. And thereafter, we are using our normal modeling softwares to cut off the unwanted portion to retain the required portion. After that, we are using STL file repair softwares. That is called Magic Mesh Mixer. All we know that. And there we repair the STL files. And then we'll use the slicing softwares to slice them as per our parameters. And finally, we are printing. So this is the sequence in preparing the CT data into final product.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. I see one question in the chat, Dr. Solomon, about how do you go about relieving the undesired residual stress in the printed metals?
Yeah, it's a very good question, very important questions too. So this is a critical factor every researcher or everybody facing if the metal powder is used as a candidate material to print the metal component. There is a general procedure going for a heat treatment. We need to understand the heat treatment will release the complete stress from the complete product. There is no research shown to remove the portion of the residual stress from the part of the component. Under the heat treatment condition, the stress will be completely relieved from the entire part of the metal component.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from any of our colleagues at VIT or at Binghamton University? Dr. Solomon, looks like one of our students is inquiring about maybe publications that you can share with us. So maybe I can follow up with you offline via email to request a couple of copies of your publications, and I can share them with the student.
Yeah.
To read.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I see a lot of remarks and comments from our colleagues. Thanking you, Dr. Solomon, for the great presentation. So again, on behalf of Binghamton University and VIT, Dean Vasudevan and I would like to thank you very much for taking the time to spend an hour of your time with us this evening, your time, and morning, our time, to share with us this exciting news about your research. And we definitely appreciate your contribution and look forward to having some follow-up discussions with you to get a copy of some of the publications and also see if any of our faculty are interested in the collaboration based on that phone call you got about one patient. So thank you again for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. And before we conclude this session, I would like to let you know about next week's presentation. This next week presentation, if you're able to see my screen, is by Dr. Scott Schiffers, who's an assistant professor in mechanical engineering in the Thomas J. Watson College of Engineering Applied Science at Binghamton. And he will talk about 3D printing for enhanced electronics cooling. So this is an exciting topic, and Dr. Scott Schiffers received the Career Award from the National Science Foundation in 2019. And we hope that many of you will be able to join us next week. Please feel free to share this with your friends, colleagues, students, scholars, and we hope to see many of you again next week. Thank you. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and wish everyone a very nice evening in India, and enjoy the rest of the day here in the US and the afternoon in Italy for Bruno.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Solomon, for your
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.